If you were a socially awkward fighter that got transferred to a notoriously rough town with a gang-run school, what would you do? You would have to aim for the top spot in the gang and prove your strength by fighting over and over again. And when the town ignores how socially awkward you are and starts loving on you, you have to go out of your way to fight others just to protect your new home. Today I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the high school gangs in Windbreaker. This boy here is going to be doing the one thing he never learned how to do while fighting. Fight for the sake of others. Sakura here is a home-trained street brawler who has always let his fists do the talking, but because of the color of his hair and eyes, no one in his hometown ever accepted or acknowledged him. After fighting off an adult or even breaking a kid's nose in a fight, he just goes back to walking on his own while getting an earful from everyone. But after moving into this new town to attend high school, he takes a stroll around to get to know the area, and that's when he walks into this gang of 5 guys, trying to assault this lady. She tries to tough her way out of it, but this guy grabs her hand, and just then good old Sakura shows up behind them, punches the guy unprovoked because, well, he hates the weak who think they're strong. And of course he goes on to whoop everybody's asses all by himself. I mean, it is impressive to watch. After giving them a proper beating, he turns around and walks away. But then the beautiful lady stops him, and she thanks him, making his face turn red because, well, he's never spoken to a babe before. So he goes on to show his lame side after such a good fight. Ugh. She invites him over to her shop for lunch and gives him a real good treat. Her name is Kotoha, and like him, she was not originally a member of the town. Sakura explains that he came to this high school because he heard how notorious and dangerous it was. And you know how it goes, you just can't fight off the masculine urge to get into a brawl every time because that's just what you gotta do. She makes fun of him, but then is surprised by how he returns this old man's luggage to him. But then she tells him something shocking. He can never achieve his goal of becoming #1 in his school because, drum roll please, he's alone. Yeah, I don't get what she means either, but we'll figure it out. Sakura says he's not weak enough to rely on others in a fight. But as you've guessed, she's not talking about physical strength. Sakura storms out of the eatery, but as he walks down the road, he runs into the same punks that he protected Kotoha from. And them weak guys have called for backup, and now Sakura is in trouble because there are too many for him. Or at least that's what they think. Without hesitating, Sakura jumps into the midst and blows off some steam, but then they keep standing up, and Sakura realizes that it might be actually a little more difficult than he had originally planned. There's a lot of more punching and kicking, and the problem with street fights, it's never fair. So Koto-chan takes a stroll out of her shop to see what's happening, and that's when this guy grabs her and uses her as collateral against our boy. And Sakura rushes to her side again and knocks him out, and now he has to fight while protecting her, and you know how dicey things get. And while he's trying to protect her, one of the dudes grabs a knife lying on the floor and stabs him in the foot. He accepts he's about to get beaten, but not without protecting Koto-chan. So he uses his body as a meat shield and stands between her and Metal Bat. But before the bat can hit, the dude shows up with all these really cool looking guys, and just like him, they're wearing the high school uniform, and they give the other gang a proper beatdown. And Sakura is all shooketh. All the residents of the area are cheering for these thugs while they take out the trash. Koda explains to Sakura that the high school students united the community and are now the protectors of the community. And that's why the people of the town are always excited to see the members of the high school walking around. Yeah, that's all nice and dandy, but Sakura is in real trouble here, and he would have gotten worse if these guys hadn't shown up to save his butt. You know, things would have been different if I were in his shoes, so here's how. First off, he disobeys every rule of fighting a crowd. Everyone, I'm assuming you're aware, knows that you don't fight a crowd by taking them all on at the same time. That's a recipe for disaster. Instead, it's better to fight them off in small chunks, possibly in different locations, so that you don't get overwhelmed by the number of people you have to face. That's the first thing I would do. As soon as you confront them, run and make them chase you. People don't run at the same pace. That's why we have Usain Bolts and not so fast other people. Once you start running, there's going to be some natural selection for the faster guys. Those are the ones you need to take care of first. And by the time the others catch up, I'll be done with the first set and ready for round 2. But that's not all. Sakura's too naive. Who goes into a street fight thinking, oh, it's going exactly as planned? He should have expected to use deadly weapons and prepare his counter for it. But even more than that, he should have never tried to protect the girl. I know you think I'm the devil, but hear me out. No one told Kotoha to come out. And as you can see, where the rest of the gang arrived, all the other residents were smart enough to stay inside. But no, she just had to see things for herself, and now she's in trouble. There was no reason to risk my neck for her, so instead of standing and fighting and trying to protect her while being an amazing fighter who could barely keep all these other people in check, I would leave her and run away and completely ignore her. If she's smart enough to come out when she hears people fighting, she better be smart enough to figure a way out by herself. Kotaha helps Sakura tape up his wounds and tells him to give the townspeople a chance to be nice to him because, he's awkward and shy and weirdly endearing, and he rushes and smashes this guy's face in with a flying kick instead. Not what we had in mind. Sakura starts fitting into the town, and he carries this sly old lady on his back to Kotaha's shop, but when he gets there, he realizes he's been played because she just gets off really quickly like a ninja. Kotaha offers him breakfast, and while he's eating, this weird-looking klutz in a school uniform steps in and trips on himself almost immediately. His name is Nirei, and he's also a freshman, like Sakura. Nirei is our resident nerd, and I think every anime needs at least one of them. And he pulls out his nerd book and starts recording things about Sakura. That's weird. Nirei asks Sakura why he joined the school from outside of town, and of course Sakura says it's because he wants to be #1. Anyways, the nerd leaves before Sakura can pick a fight with him. But Sakura doesn't like him because he thinks Nirei would always run away from a fight, and he looks too weak. Kotaha drops some sagely wisdom and tells Sakura not to judge people based on how they look. After he leaves, all the shop owners stop him on his way to school and give him all the gifts to thank him for fighting the day before. And well, he doesn't know what to do, but he takes the gifts, and before he can settle down to enjoy his gifts, a girl runs up to him and asks for help. Nirei picked a fight with some ruffians while trying to protect a girl, and as you expect, he got his butt handed to him. But he refused to let them go because he thinks he's a member of the group from the high school, and he has a job to protect the members of the town. And just when they're about to give him a proper beatdown, Sakura shows up and sends him with a flying kick. What is it with this dude and flying kicks? As expected, Sakura takes them all on his own and, well, beats them up. And Nirei apologizes for looking weak, but our socially awkward Sakura tells him he's cool, even though he's weak. And this makes him happy. And only to make matters better, the lady he protected him from shows up and thanks him. And once the fight is over, Nirei goes full nerd on Sakura because now he thinks Sakura details are important enough to be in his top secret book. He offers to become Sakura's guide because he's very good with details. The duo heads down to school, and that's when they find out they're going to be classmates. But when they get to the class door, Nirei makes him promise to be nice to everyone, please. Sakura, on the other hand, is already itching for a fight, and when they get in, Eye Patch-kun here dissolves the tension by telling everyone that Sakura fought off some bad guys just the day before. Everything looks great, it's off to a great start, until Sakura opens his big mouth and says that he's gonna be #1 in school. Unfortunately for him, this big guy's listening, and he gets angry at our Sakura-kun. So Giant-kun, or Shugashita if you will, is a fanatic follower of the current #1 in Furin High. He gets pissed that Sakura wants to take the spot of his dear boss, and they fight, but Sakura is surprisingly quick, and he dodges all the quick hits and to everyone's surprise, kicks him in the face. What is it with this guy and kicking? Before the fight can get really good, the school PA system turns on, and the #1 guy in the school, this guy named Umemiya, tells everyone to get along, and as soon as Sakura hears his voice, he feels like he must obey him. So they put their fight on hold, and the #1 tells him there's only one rule in Furin: to protect the town and whoever they hold dear to them. He ends the address while still sounding super goofy that honestly Sakura wonders if he really is the strongest guy in school. Eye Patch gets them to shake hands and forget all about their fight, and once they do, everyone jumps on Sakura, and he enjoys his newfound popularity, but still finds the town really weird because everyone's like really nice to him since he arrived. And Sakura sees Shark Hair Dude over here, the one that saved him from the metal bat yesterday. But when he tells Nirei where he met him while saving Kotaha, Shark Hair Dude rushes over to him and slams his mouth shut before reminding him that Kotaha's name is forbidden. Think Voldemort, but like in a good way. Nirei proves why he's a resident nerd, and he tells Sakura that Shark Hair Dude is one of the 4 kings of the Bufurin, because they're almost as strong as Umemiya, our #1 guy. And once they're done explaining, they go on patrol into the town, and after introduction, they go around town and paint off the graffiti sprayed by the walls by other delinquents, which Sakura finds it weird. Once they're done, Shark Hair explains that fighting shouldn't be the only way to have fun, because it feels nice to be needed by the townsfolk too. And when they get to an alley, Sakura sees a sign that he doesn't recognize, and Nirei has to explain that it belongs to a rival gang called Shishitoren. They own the other side of the city, and they are not nice and friendly like Bufurin. Sakura thinks they'll be more fun because they are the devotees of power. But that's when this guy shows up, running away from some Shishitoren guys, and Shark Hair encourages the boy to run faster. But Sakura can tell that if he keeps running, he wouldn't get to their turf where he'll be safe. So Sakura and Shugashita do what every logical hero would do. They fly in with a kick and knock out the guy closest to the poor dude. But then Sakura notices that instead of caring for their comrade, the Shishitoren guys make fun of him for getting knocked out with one hit. Then this guy in glasses shows up, and by the way the other guys react, you know he's bad news. He's Togame, and he's the #2 guy in Shishitoren. But he's even worse than the other guys, and he breaks a bottle on the poor dude's head and tells him he's not a part of them anymore because he lost a fight and weaklings are not allowed. Togame tells tells them that he isn't going to let them off easy for trespassing on their territory, and says he'll punish them on a different day. After he leaves, Shark Hair apologizes for not acting first, and decides they need to inform Umemiya of what has happened. Look, Togame pulled back, and I guess the worst possible scenario has been avoided, but I think Sakura and Shugashida's love for violence really just they could have done without. Here's what I would do. I would start by not actually interfering with the Shishitorin raid. I mean, think about it. They already know that Shishitorin is bad news thanks to Narrated over here. There's no need to go staking at their bad side. The poor guy wandered out of the safe territory, so he should face the consequences. I mean, if they just let him get a little beat, the greater gang war would have been avoided. But no. Now I already can tell that y'all are beginning to hate on my awesomeness of being right. But there actually is another way to save him without compromising on the turf rules. Since the guy that is being chased is a little ahead of these guys, all we have to do is distract them for a little while, and Sharkhair knows they're number 2. And we all know lackeys act correct in the presence of their boss. All it would take is some quick thinking on Sharkhair's side to call Togame's name and ask him what he's doing so far away from their base. That conversation would definitely make the other guys wonder if Togame is actually there. The moment they stop or at least slow down to check if he's there is all the window of opportunity we need. Grab the guy they're chasing and pull him into our territory, and just like that, he would be safe. Well, aside from not actually fighting them, the guy is injured because he's already being roughed up. If Furin is meant to protect the weak like him, they don't always have to do it by kicking the butts of other guys. They simply have to step in to shield him till he gets into a safe territory. A punch or two on Sakura or Shugashida would hardly hurt them, and they would literally become the wall of protection that saves our poor guy here. Sakura is disappointed by how normal Umemiya looks. He's in a garden tending to flowers, and of course Sakura expects him to look, intimidating. But all he does is he just explains about his plants, which no one really cares about, and Sakura wonders if there's more about him that actually makes him special. But the guy they saved from Shishitorin decides to speak up, and he explains how he got into the situation and apologizes for dragging everyone into his mess. But Umemiya makes light of the situation and tells him to leave the rest to them. Sakura gets some praise from the number 1 and starts blushing like a little girl. But while they're still talking, the leader of the Shishitorins, this restless, small-looking guy named Choji, shows up, holding one innocent Furin student by his hair. Umemiya goes down to meet him and he tries to negotiate a way out of the fight, since Choji has already beaten a few people. But then Choji tries to kick Umemiya, and that's when he tells them his true aim. He didn't come because they started a gang war. He came because Umemiya is still happy despite being at the top of Furin, and Choji's a sad, twisted little kid. So he figured if he got Umemiya to work under him, he would be happier like Umemiya. Whoa. Anyway, before Umemiya can give him any response, Togame and the rest of the Shishitorin guys show up. Togame scolds Choji for rushing ahead without him, and then he points out that it would be bad for them to fight because the entire Furin school is watching what is happening from their windows. Umemiya tells the rest of the students not to come down and agrees to Choji's duel request. But Togame says they can't fight that day because he'll soon be dark, and as twisted as he is, he wants to see the face of the person he's beating into a bloody pulp. So Choji then suggests a group competition. 4 fighters from Furin and 4 fighters from Shishitorin. But before they settle anything, this guy shows up and says he wants to join the brawl and chooses to fight against one of the Furin's 4 kings, Shark Hair Kun. After settling who is fighting against who, Furin guys head over to Kotoha's shop to grab a bite before their battle. When Umemiya shows up, Shark Hair Kun finally explains why he warned Sakura never to mention anything about his first fight to Umemiya. Umemiya loves Kotoha because they grew up together, so if anything happens to her, there'll be hell to pay. Umemiya wonders why Shishitorin ended up so power hungry, but he says he'll figure everything out after talking to them during the fight. He teaches Sakura that fights are meant to be conversations, where you learn more about your opponents. The guy they saved thanks them for their help, and Sakura starts blushing again. Sakura realizes that this is the first time he would be fighting for someone else's sake. He wonders why Nirei is with them since Nirei isn't invading anyone, but I secretly think Nirei is actually the main character because he's just that guy that happens to be in every scene for it to be complete. They finally get to the Shishitorin lair, a creepy looking place called the Ori. Basically means a cage, and there are a lot of members around. Umemiya tries to calm his followers down by telling him it doesn't matter whether they win or lose, but Sakura tells him they have no plan on losing. First is Shugashida versus this dude with weird hair. Nirei pulls out his book of secrets to find all the information about this guy, and most of it says the guy's bad news. Not that it matters to Shugashida because as soon as the fight starts, it ends in one hit. The crowd is so disappointed they boo the fighter for being so weak. Then Togame tells someone to clean the trash off the stage, and of course, since he's lost, he's no longer a part of the Shishitorin. The next fight is between Eye Patch Kun and this other dude who was also there the day the whole thing started. And you know what they say about the quiet and peaceful ones? Eye Patch Kun is as dangerous as he is calm. He uses some freaking Aikido moves like a proper Jujutsu grandmaster and toys with his opponent until he breaks him psychologically. And when he's done playing around with his emotions, he gets ready to fight seriously. But Togame stops him and tells his opponent that he's no longer a part of Shishitorin. Before Sakura can get his his chance to step on the dance floor, this dude said that he wanted to fight shark hair. He shows up and he says he's ready to go. Shishitoran have lost 2 fights already, so they're looking to him to even the odds. When the fight starts, it's rather interesting. Shark hair is supposed to be like one of the strongest guys in Furin, but he gets his butt handed to him. And turns out he has a history with this guy he's fighting named Sato. He even taught him how to fight. When Sakura sees he's being pushed around, he proves that despite being a socially awkward fighting junkie, he actually cares about his friends. And he tries to encourage him the only way he knows how, by scolding the crap out of him. After being pushed around for a little bit, shark hair finally gets serious and fights like he should. Then the fight drags out more because now he's actually fighting and proves that he's actually the stronger guy. And Sato remembers how shark hair saved him from bullies when they were younger, and he decides to follow shark hair everywhere he went. But one day, shark hair turned down an opportunity to have Sato serve him forever because shark hair decided to go work for Umemiya. So yeah, as you expect, Sato was jealous and angry and joined Shishitoran to get strong enough to beat his savior. Sato is an angry kid who is throwing a tantrum at his father figure because he feels he was abandoned. His problem was not that shark hair went to work for Umemiya, but that shark hair told him to not follow him anymore. Anyway, he's surprised that despite fighting for so long, it looks like shark hair has been playing around and having fun. And shark hair apologizes for abandoning him and knocks him out. Okay, we're all happy shark hair came out on top, right? But things could have gone sideways if Sakura hadn't scolded him. Besides, there's no reason for this fight to have happened in the first place. If I were in shark hair's shoes, Sato would have never challenged me because I would have done things differently. For starters, I would not have let my relationship get so bad that we have to settle it with a fist fight. Look, going through Sato's memories, we know that he held shark hair in the highest regard. He was basically Umemiya to Sato, but he didn't think of how important his words were to Sato. And when he told Sato to stop following him, you gotta do something differently here. Even if I wanted Sato to choose a different path, I would have been a little nicer. I definitely would not have become a stranger to him. Let's face it, Talk no Jutsu remains the greatest jutsu of all time. Listen, argue with Naruto, not me, alright? So if I wanted to move on, I would have had a long conversation with Sato about life and how we all needed to make our own choices over a nice big bowl of ramen. Then it would explain how cool Umemiya is to him and even give him a chance to meet the guy that's making me not go after the throne anymore. And once I do that, Sato would most likely join me to serve under Umemiya, and problem solved, we're not having this fight. And if all else fails, I would have made sure that as soon as we got on the stage, I would have taken him seriously right from the get-go and just beat him down so thoroughly that he would never have the courage to ever get back up ever again. You know, tough love. Anyway, Shishitoran guy gets knocked out and they're really bummed they've lost 3 times in a row. But when Togame wants to remove the Shishitoran shirt from Sato, shark hair stops him and tells him to wait till after he wins his own battle. Of course, our boy Sakura has been roaring for his fight, so he finally gets on stage. But he reminds him that fights are meant to be conversations, so he should make sure he has a long, healthy chat. Listen, you know you're in trouble when the guy in glasses takes off his glasses and throws them away. And that's what Togame did as soon as he gets on stage. And as soon as the fight starts, Sakura goes, "Oh shoot, I'm in trouble." After spending a long period of dodging, he finally manages to counter, but this only makes Togame take the fight up to another level. And Sakura is back to square one, dodging hits like a mouse running away from a predator. Togame catches Sakura and smashes his face on the ground, and I've got to say, things don't look good for our double-colored haired friend. He tries to use Talk no Jutsu, but that doesn't work out, and that's when Sakura finally lands a proper hit that makes Togame bleed. Even Choji is surprised by how strong Sakura really is. Let's not forget he is fighting the number 2 of Shishitoran. Although Sakura looks like he's got an advantage, Togame shatters his hope with a single hit. He kicks Sakura in his belly and leaves him gasping for air, but he's just getting started because he smashes his head into the ground, and I'm surprised his face doesn't split in 2. And Sakura, of course, doesn't know how to take a beating in silence, so he pushes Togame's leg off, but when he calls Shishitoran bullies for what they did that caused the fight in the first place, Togame acts surprised. Apparently he had no idea how the problem started in the first place. And when he learns what really happened, he totally ignores Sakura and goes to dish out punishment to the true culprits who are behind the whole thing. I feel bad for the guys because, like, the Furin guys already handed them a beatdown earlier. But anyways, after beating and stripping them of their clothes, Togame goes down memory lane and thinks of how he joined Shishitoran. He remembers how free they were when they first joined and how things changed when Choji became the leader. Choji lost his way after becoming the leader, and instead of protecting the group and helping them get stronger, he started kicking out the weak members of the group because he wasn't having fun anymore. Because Togame wanted everyone to see Choji as a good person, he became the sacrificially bad guy and started chasing every person that lost a fight out of Shishitoran. My, how nice of him. When Sakura tries to kick again, he notices that Togame's mind is no longer in the fight, and suddenly Sakura feels like he wants to know more about Togame because he can't understand why the way he's acting. Then Togame says something shocking. He says Shishitoran is for people who want to get stronger, but is not for scumbags. Sakura realizes that Togame had no idea why the fight originally started. Sakura gives him a mouthful and tells him to become a good person so they can have a real fight. And Sakura helps him realize that when Choji changed, he should have fought back against him instead of accepting the new Choji and sticking to their weak butt lifestyle. And at this point, Togame finally loses his ponytail braid and takes off his slippers. And Sakura knows knows that crap is about to go down, and their slugfest starts all over again. And this time they fight and fight and fight and laugh and laugh and fight and fight and fight some more, but it's all with good vibes. But as with all good things, it must come to an end. And because Togame knows he's the bad guy here, he lets Sakura land the final hit. Then he quits and says he's lost, and just like you would expect, Choji isn't happy, so Choji kicks him away. And Sakura gets pissed off, but just when he's about to hit Choji, Umemiya shows up and tells him it's time for them to swap. And now it's finally his turn to shine. And Umemiya starts talking. Oh great. He asks Choji if he felt anything from watching Sakura's fight, but as you'd expect, Choji's heart is dead cold like the Grinch. So Umemiya figures out what he needs to do. He needs to give Choji a beating so strong that his heart will start beating again. Choji goes on his villain monologue, which is basically him saying, once he beats Umemiya, he will have all the strong people under him, and yeah. As soon as the fight starts, it's obvious that Choji is the strongest person in Shishitoran. He moves like an actual animal, like think of a monkey fighting. Wait, you didn't just think of Monkey D. Luffy, did you? Anyways, Sakura realizes that he was saved by Umemiya because if he had actually fought against Choji, he would have lost like a little baby. He looks at Togame with new respect because even with Togame, he knows Togame let him win, but he promises to get stronger. Umemiya asks Choji a question, but when he gets an answer he doesn't like, he finally gets serious and lands a punch on Choji that makes him bleed. Although Choji keeps punching Umemiya, he notices that his punches are not moving him. And that's when Umemiya, as the kind-hearted teacher he is, points out that Choji's punches are not as heavy because he's not fighting for anything. Umemiya gives him just a few hard punches, like he's trying to systematically reset his brain. But instead of letting the good work of Umemiya show, Choji reacts like a proper psycho and pulls out his hair before deciding he doesn't want Umemiya anymore. And he finally has the face of a stone-cold killer. And that's when Umemiya decides to turn into a Buddha and he stops fighting, and he allows himself to become a punching bag. And when Choji pulls a Castlevania Dracula move on him, like he lets him drink some of the blood before hugging him, like this is what? But anyways, Choji wasn't having any of that, and he punches Umemiya some more before jumping off of him. Umemiya finally proves why Talk no Jutsu is the greatest. It reminds Choji of what made him shine so bright all those years back. And then he gives him a proper headbutt to jiggle his brain a little more. Umemiya's head must have been made of stone because he legit knocks him out. When Choji wakes up, Togame is by his side, and he tells Togame that he had a dream about their past from the first time, and he was really happy back then. And Choji realizes that what always made him happy was not being strong, it was seeing others smile. So he finally asks Togame to smile again, and Togame apologizes for not confronting him when things got bad, and they finally talk like friends and share their problems, and they cry and hug and all the mushy stuff. But when Choji tries to hand over Shishitoran to Umemiya since he lost, Umemiya says no and tells him they're now friends. Yes, the sweet scent of friendship. Immediately after the fight, Umemiya suggests they will all go get food together, and Sakura finds it weird. But while they're eating, Togame and Choji apologize for all the trouble they caused, and Umemiya decides to leave their punishment to Sakura, but he blushes and says, well, they shouldn't cause any more trouble, so all's well? Talk about a softie. They eat together, and Umemiya goes out of his way to teach them Leadership 101. He explains why he got to the top and why he has so much fun at the top. When he's done, even Choji confirms that Umemiya is carrying a lot of weight on his shoulders, and after eating, Umemiya makes Choji and Togame promise to come to Furin's turf next time they want to share a meal. And after that, they say their goodbyes and head back to Furin. When they get back, the guy they went to war for is waiting for them. They all head down for good old Kotohan's shop for another meal, and she's surprised that they're already patched up, but when Sakura tries to run away because it's all too mushy for him, Umemiya grabs him and tells him to wait a bit because they need to talk. Umemiya asks how his fistiversation, yes, I totally made that up, how his conversation went, but Sakura surprisingly says he didn't hear anything because he was actually thinking he would hear voices while punching with another guy. Umemiya takes his time to explain that a conversation with fists doesn't mean you hear what the other person is saying. As your fists clash, you'll begin to understand a little bit more about them. Umemiya is happy that Sakura is a good kid despite coming from out of town. Sakura hasn't got any better at being an awkward kid, so he blushes his cheeks away. And then Umemiya does something he never expected. He tells Sakura that Sakura can become #1 in Furin. Of course, that makes Shugashina mad, so he grabs a chair and gets ready to break Sakura's head. Sakura, Eyepatch-kun, and Narei head back to the school the next day, and that's when Narei notices that everyone is staring at them. As soon as they get into their class, everyone rushes at them to find out how the battle with Shishitoran went down. And for the first time in forever, Sakura hands over full responsibility to Narei and Eyepatch-kun. But as sleek and smooth as his Aikido moves are, Eyepatch-kun slides all the responsibility down to Narei. And just when Narei is about to nerd out the details of the fight, this weird dude who's been doing pull-ups, cause yeah, why not? He shows up with his protein shake and starts asking people about their virtues. And it should come as no surprise that Narei has all his details written down. He knows so much about this pull-up dude that even the pull-up dude is shocked. Pull-up dude invites everyone to join him at his favorite eatery while they listen to the story of the Shishitoran brawl. But everyone says like nah, and eventually only pull-ups, Narei, Sakura, and Eyepatch head down to the eatery. Once they arrive, Pull-up challenges Sakura to a fight because he wants to have a fistiversation with him. Why not? Before they can explore the option to fight, this dude from their class shows up. His name is Kiryu, and so far he's been minding his own dang business. And he walks in with this cutie pie who totally ignores his classmates before taking a seat with the girl at the back. And Narrated does what he expects him to. He gives Sakura all the information about Kiryu, and from what he says, the dude is bad news. And despite his gentle look, he beat up his seniors back in his former school. And Pull-Up Dude randomly ignores Sakura's blushing and asks Kiryu to join them. But he turns them down because, like we said, he's in the middle of a conversation with a hot girl. But Pull-Up's dude is not one to take no for an answer, so he goes to their table and insists that they join him. That's when Kiryu points out that he's scaring the girl. Everyone thinks he should get angry, but instead he apologizes to her and starts sounding very gentle. And that's when Kiryu decides that the eatery's too rowdy, so he tells the lady to join him and find somewhere else. But as they step out, there's a gang waiting for them. The guys inside hear the ruckus and go out to check out what's going on. That's when Kiryu explains that he really doesn't know the girl, but he saw her being cornered by some douchies, so he sucker punched one and ran with her. Now the guys come back with his friends, and he tries to attack Kiryu and Pull-Up's dude, but Sakura jumps in with his signature flying kick, and Eye Patch secures the girl safely behind them, while Sakura, Kiryu, and Pull-Up's guy do some bullying. But then Pull-Up's does something weird. After roaring for the bad guys to attack him, one of them punches him and he falls like a total weakling. Before Sakura can complain, he explains that it is a part of his virtues to allow other guys to get the first hit in. Now that they've hit him, he grabs the guy that punched him and gives him a German suplex. Kiryu uses some waterbender moves to redirect all his opponent's attacks to either Sakura or Pull-Up's dude. And although Sakura complains at first, he starts enjoying fighting in a team. But then Eye Patch tells Kiryu that he doesn't need to bother about protecting the girl in an array because he's there. But while Eye Patch-kun shows off his martial arts, Kiryu almost gets ambushed by two guys. And guess who comes flying in with a kick? Yep, Sakura! Flying kick guy again. After dealing with all the delinquents, Pull-Up's guy shouts out their high school code and tells Sakura to learn it too. Yep, they showed him who's boss, but did you notice that Kiryu would have been in trouble if the rest of the classmates were not there? Here's what I would do. First, yes, I would have saved her from the delinquents, but then I'm not going to take her to a random eatery. Everyone knows that delinquents at high schools are very persistent, so if I were in his shoes, I would have gone to a place where I actually know people. Maybe an eatery I go to often, or a route that the Furin patrol squads usually go through regularly. Sure, she's someone he's just met, but he would have to explain to her that if he lets her go, they'll attack her again. So for her own safety, it would be best if he gets some protection from the Furin. And in the event I don't know any place, I would call for help. The high school he's a part of is all about support and team stuff, because Kiryu's been in the town for a while and he definitely has the phone number of a few people in the school. So if I were him, I would have sent a message to one of my guys to have them come find me quickly and give me some backup. They only spent a few minutes inside the same eatery with Sakura and his friends before the delinquents found them. So it's safe to say that if they had stayed inside, the delinquents would have stormed the eatery to pick them up. It helps knowing that help is on the way. Even while fighting, Kiryu is holding back because he's strong and he's trying to protect the lady. But that means that if you're on his own, he would then be able to fight to his fullest and he wouldn't have to keep an eyeball on the girl. Before leaving, Kiryu puts his number on Sakura's phone. Narei and the others follow suit, and even Kota gives him her number when he gets to her eatery. Lucky dog. Anyway, by the time Sakura gets to class, they're already discussing who their grade captain should be. Some 2-year students come to supervise the election. Without wasting any time, Eye Patch-kun nominates Sakura. Kiryu, Pull-Ups, and Narei all support Eye Patch's nomination, and just like that, the whole class seems cool with the idea. But our socially awkward friend has something to say about that. He tries to justify why they be making a mistake trying to appoint him, but no one really cares. Eye Patch nominates himself as the first assistant, and Narei takes up the position of the second assistant. And Sakura still wants to object, but this guy in headphones named Kaji starts barking at him that it's not as deep as he thinks it is just because he's a grade captain. And we learn that he's shouting so loudly because his earphones are on their loudest. Eventually, Kaji points at Sakura and tells him that he's the grade captain. And Sakura wonders why the dude who was originally talking is allowing Kaji to make the final decision. And that's when he learns that Kaji is actually the grade 2 captain, despite how uninterested he looks. And so they shove the responsibility on Sakura and wish him good luck. And immediately, Narei springs into action and creates a class group chat for everyone to join. Once it is decided, they tell Sakura to follow Kaji's patrol group, so he can learn how to be a grade captain from another grade captain. And while patrolling, this old lady stops them and tells them her Risa is missing, so their afternoon patrol turns into a hunt for a kid. But as soon as Kaji reassures the woman and tells her to head home while they find the missing kid, he delegates all the work of searching to his second in command. And Sakura is not impressed. He thinks Kaji is too unmotivated, and he decides that they would be the ones to find the kid first. And just then a cat bumps into him, and the second years explain that it actually is the cat they are searching for. But the cat climbs a roof, and the year 2 guy gives up on the search. But Sakura flexes his athletic abilities and climbs the roof in no time before chasing after the cat. He chases the cat everywhere until it jumps over a bridge and into the water. And Sakura stops and is about to give chase, but Kaji doesn't hesitate and follows the cat into the water. He grabs the cat and finally returns it to the owner safely. Ooh, yay, you got a cat back. Honestly, this is kind of dumb. But if I were searching for a cat or chasing a cat, I would take a few minutes to research what cats are like a very simple Google Google search would do, and instead of trying to chase him around, I'm just gonna get some dried fish or maybe a dead rat or something. You know, a snack, something that will lure the cat in so I don't have to chase it all over the town. There, problem solved, easy peasy. But in the event I don't use fish, which is easy, I would make a plan with the group that would be stationed where the cat will come out. Then instead of doing a sprint competition that would frown the cat and make it run away, I would walk slowly to it and try to coax it into coming to me. And this gives my partners all the time they need to set up nets to catch the cat on every building. And once I get the signal they're done setting up, I will lunge at the cat, it'll get startled and jump. And instead of falling to the ground to continue running, it would fall into the waiting arms of my teammates. After returning it, Sakura feels like it is time to know more about Kaji. So he asks him what his secret reason is for becoming grade captain, but Kaji shocks him and says that he doesn't really have a reason. He became grade captain because his friends asked him to do it. Kaji explains that he's not as good as the people that nominated him, but he does the job because he wants to live up to their expectations of him. So Sakura says, hey, that's a good plan, I'll do that too. When he goes back to Kodaha's shop, she tells him that although there are things he cannot do, he can start from the basics like learning the names of everyone in class and calling them by name. When addressing them in school, the grade captains are summoned to the roof. There, Sakura learns that Narrated already knows the names of everyone in the school, and he learned that because he knew he would not be much of a help in a fistfight, so he decided to do what he could do to help. Umemiya shows up with the 4 kings of the Furin and their secondaries. As soon as everyone sees them, they stand at attention, well, everyone but poor Sakura, because as usual, he has no idea what is going on.
Narrated goes full nerd mode and introduces all the captains and their different teams. We all know Shark-Hair-kun, but the rest of them we'll talk about as we go along. Umemiya addresses everyone, and after initially goofing around about his plants, he finally asks for their help in defending the school. Sakura, as usual, is surprised by how much people respond to him. They literally sound like an army. Umemiya asks the different grade captains to do their introductions to one another. After school, they go on patrol with Pull-Ups-kun, but then they run into these guys in hoodies. They're looking for someone, and Sakura finds them suspicious. When he asks what they're looking for, they tell him that he's not the one. Then they just turn around and walk away. Eye Patch explains that they are a rival gang named Keel, and just then a lady finds one of their classmates named Anzai, beaten and bloody in a corner of the street. But when he wakes up, he blatantly lies to them. The lies are so bad that even a kindergartner wouldn't believe him. When they ask him what business he has with Keel, he avoids the question and runs away. Narrated says they have to help him, but Sakura says they can't do anything, since he didn't ask for their help and is hiding the truth from them. Sakura, you're so cold. Narrated insists, but Sakura says he's going home. Eye Patch tells Narrated not to worry because he believes Sakura will attend to it. Meanwhile, Anzai meets up with this babe and apologizes for not being able to bring back their friend. She tells him to go ask help from Furin, but he says it is his personal problem, so he will deal with it alone. She even offers to go with him, but he turns her down. As soon as he leaves, Sakura shows up and tells the lady to give him all the information she has on what Anzai is going through. She tells Sakura everything about her childhood friendship with Anzai and another kid named Nagato. Basically, Nagato got involved with some shady kids in Keel, and now Anzai is trying to get him back without being a burden to anyone. Sakura gets to class the next day and Anzai is still peddling lies to everyone. As soon as Sakura takes his seat, his gang informs him that they know exactly where he went and when he left him. But just then, this random dude shows up and gives Anzai an envelope. When he reads it, his face stiffens and he runs out of the class. Sakura chases after him and stops him. Sakura lets him know that he knows what's going on. He takes the envelope and inside is a picture of Anzai's friend with his face beaten. He asks Anzai for the details, and this time, Anzai finally shares how he met up with his old friend and got beaten by him. But then he just saw the boys from Keel beating up his friend, so he jumped in to save him. But when he did, his friend rejected his help and told him to stay out. Anzai tells him to not bother since it's not Furin business. But Sakura says he's not going to help as a member of Furin. He's going to help him as a G, but that's when Kiryu and the rest of the class show up and turns out they were listening, and they all decide they're going to go help save Anzai's friend, which basically turns it into a Furin issue. Anyways, then they walk out of the school with this cool looking view as if they look like the final bosses or something, and that's it. Want to know what happens next? Stay tuned for our review of the next season once it drops. In the meantime, if you like gang wars and stuff like that, totally check out our video on Marshall Season 2, and we'll see you in the next one.